I can't tell you all how many times I've said we may never know who Julie Valentine's parents are, but we always have said that she's a symbol of hope and inspiration to ensure that this never happened to another child and that no parent feel as if this is their only option. And today, although we have some answered questions about who her parents are, we still have so many unanswered questions as well, including the question of why. And although today we feel some satisfaction, some closure, and justice, at the same time, we grieve. We grieve the loss of what could have been, all the firsts that Julie Valentine was never able to experience. The joy of swinging on a swing, sliding down a slide, just laughing, dancing, singing. This is the complicated nature of child abuse, the wondering of what life could have been like if only. The question of why, as if there is any explanation that would really explain such a horrific act as this one. This is the question we all ask when a child has been abused. The community, the professionals, the survivors, we all ask why, as if the answer would make us feel any better or to understand. What we can do as a community is learn from this tragedy. How can we support and protect children in our community as citizens, neighbors, and professionals? What can we do to support children who grew up in abusive environments so that they do not repeat this cycle of abuse? How do we support parents? What do we do if we believe a child is at risk of being abused? And what are we willing to do to ensure that there is never another Julie Valentine in our community? What do we do to ensure that she did not die in vain? We protect children in our community and provide support for those who have been abused at the Julie Valentine Center. But this takes every member of our teams and our community to do this. There are ways that we all honor Julie Valentine every day. When members of our community report abuse, we honor her memory. When a family provides foster care for a child, we honor her memory. When a friend or family member listens and supports a survivor of child abuse, we honor her memory. And when parents educate their own children about safety, we honor her memory. When citizens volunteer their services to child-serving organizations, we honor her memory. And when law enforcement tirelessly seek justice for each child, we honor her memory. We do what we do every day at the Julie Valentine Center to honor Julie Valentine's memory and to create a legacy for her and all of those who have experienced abuse and assault. We may never be able to answer the question of why this happened to her, but we know that together we can honor Julie Valentine every day with simple acts of kindness, service, and love for every member of the Greenville community. Thank you again for what you all have done and are doing, and thank you all for being here.
We'll take questions.
Chief, what was the mother's, you said she was interviewed yesterday. What did she say? What was her reaction?
So the Miss Graham was, she waived her rights to an attorney initially and but just a few minutes later invoked her right to an attorney. And so at that point in custody, we cease our questioning. We did attempt, as the law provides, that requires us to do, attempted to get consent for DNA, a DNA swab. She refused that DNA swab, and so Detective Lindler and Blair drafted a search warrant approved by a magistrate, and she submitted to that search warrant without any issues. So Ms. Graham was then transported to the Greenville County Detention Facility, and you know, she'll have an opportunity to talk to an attorney. We cannot initiate conversation with her independently unless she reaches out to us or her attorney reaches out to us.
Has she had an arraignment yet?
I don't believe so. I don't know exactly when it is. So, yes.
When did you guys initially start using the paragon service on this case?
I want to say it was November. November, might have been earlier than that. You know, they helped us with the Jenny Zitricki case as well. and we're working about 4 active cold cases currently now, this being one of them. And we're also using LabCorp on another case because of the technology that they offer with respect to the evidence that we have in that case, and that's the Dale Fettner case from Azalea Hill Apartments, also off of Verde, almost 10 years after Julie Valentine's murder. So I do want to say one thing though, the technology is important, but the technology gives us the leads that we need to reactivate a case, and then our detectives actually have to work that case, much like they would any traditional case. And so it takes a lot of legwork, a lot of coordination, and a lot of teamwork within the detective division to bring closure to these cases, to help guide them through. And so I really appreciate it. I said earlier on a radio program, Joey Hudson's radio program, just this morning, that I'm fortunate enough as chief of this organization to have as good a detective team as I've ever worked with in any agency the 30 years I've been in, and they work very hard. They're dedicated, and they produce great work. I also want to recognize Brian Maroney here from the Solicitor's Office. Appreciate you being here. Your willingness to talk through this case with us and to support our prosecution of the case. I mentioned back there's a few detectives, one for cold case, one that wants to be, and another one who retired from this case. But you know, they volunteer their time to help us bring closure for families. This, again, as I mentioned on the front end of the remarks, you cannot understate the value of bringing closure to families who have suffered such immense pain from the tragedies of losing a loved one. And so the work and the dedication of the cold case team and our detectives, and anybody who touches these cases, even outside of our agency, SLED, the Parabon people, the LabCorp people, any of the other agencies that have been involved to work with us, the dedication has just been absolutely tremendous.
Did she appear to be a full term? I mean, was the baby born premature, or?
Baby was a full-term baby, a little over 6.5 pounds, and was completely viable and was viable outside the womb.
Did she have other kids?
Yes. There's part of this related to her other children that is directly related to the case and our ability to, I think, establish probable cause and prosecute the case. So I won't get into that at this point, but yeah, 2 other children.
And do we know, I think the director mentioned, we don't, I guess, but any indication in terms of why?
No, we don't know the answer of why, but we are quite confident that we know who both Julie's parents are.
Did the father say he was with the woman and the baby at the time of the birth, or you said he knew?
What do you mean with? Present?
Present, yeah. Like
No.
physically present, or relationally with, too?
Relationally.
Did he say anything else you can share with us? Anything important?
It's probably not good at this point because, again, there's still a lot of work we have to do. But we do have, he is a cooperating witness.
And it's a huge solve for the city, too. I mean, I know many of us, even if we haven't been here for that long, have heard of this case. And what does that mean to the department and maybe just the city?
So it is a case that many, if not most, people in our community are familiar with. And so being able to bring closure is a big deal in any case. I think it's a big deal when it's such a well-known case. And again, we're not really cherry picking the cases. We have 16 other open murder cases. We are working on about 3-4 others. I think we're opening another one. And so what we do is we go through and we reevaluate the evidence in light of changes in technologies to see what evidence, and sometimes we're not the only ones reevaluating that evidence. We've had participation from SLED Lab and SLED agents to help us. We've had the benefit of having a retired FBI agent as part of our cold case team. Very experienced detectives who retired from the Greenville Police Department, working with all in conjunction with our active detectives. So we're able to bring together a team around these cases and start to try and identify leads that are viable again. One other thing I would add is that over time, power control dynamics change as relationships change. Relationships change because people come in and out of other people's lives, and there are power dynamics with that. And sometimes people who are in power and control pass away, and so that is no longer a case. So when there are people who have information about any of our cold cases, if you have information, bring it forward to us. You can call Crime Stoppers, 23 Crime, and I think you can still see the letters on your cell phones. So 23 Crime is the number. Give us an anonymous tip that helps us bring back to life these cases where our leads have been exhausted, and bring justice to families and to victims, and bring closure to families.
How long is it believed Julie Valentine survived outside the womb?
Not long.
Like an hour?
We don't have a clear window on that time. She's believed to have been discovered 3 days after her birth.
Now, was the father already in custody for another crime when
No.
you guys matched the DNA?
No. No. Again, the genealogy sites do actually help us. And you know, there's a lot of questions out there about the privacy concerns, but really people are consenting to connect and identify their lineage. People are consenting to the public use of their DNA. We do not house that DNA. We do not house profiles of full profiles of a person's complete DNA structure, but the genealogy sites do. And so we contract with a group that will take that DNA and look across the wide array of participants and begin to, in reverse, generate a family tree. And they use a lot of research, record acquisition, things like that, that are outside of what's available even on the Ancestry or some of the other sites, the 123andMe sites and all of that. So it is part technology, part gumshoe, and then once those leads are developed, we then have to take those leads and bring them to fruition. So that's how that works. There's additional technologies out there that we're leveraging with respect to DNA as well.
Chief, you guys deal with some really tragic, I mean, every homicide is tragic. You guys deal with a lot of horrific things in the community. Where does this case sort of rank in terms of what your investigators have experienced in their tenure?
Well, I mean, I don't know of any murder that is any less tragic than another murder. Does that make any sense? You know, it's I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, they're all tragic, and they all matter a lot to us, and their families matter a lot to us. And so we try not to lose hope, we try not to lose sight, and we try never to forget, and we try to always care.
You mentioned November, I believe, was when you started using the technology to match up, or you said
I
it's been a
could
few months?
get a nod. October, November.
Any reason why? Was that the first point that it was available? Do you take these in order?
We had done the kind of the field test with Jenny Zatricki's case, and so so we were examining our other cases where we felt we might be able to make progress, and so in this case, because it was a newly born infant who was really effectively murdered by neglect. We felt that, okay, so the mother's clearly going to be involved in this case, and likely the father. And so we decided to attempt to use that technology and that company and that process that they use to identify the parents. And we will continue to use those technologies. I will tell you, I know there's a debate about the privacy concerns or whatnot, but you know, there are really tragic interests at stake when we use this technology. We use it with care, and I will tell you, even in the DNA technology that we use, we never have access to somebody's full profile anyway. There are so many alleles of DNA on a DNA strand, and there are a very, very select few that enable us to identify a profile of an individual and compare that to other individuals. So police, prosecutors, government never has a complete inventory of anyone's DNA, period.
Where was the mother living in relation to where the baby was found?
At the time?
Yes, sir.
Probably within a mile. So the baby was found on Hilton Street, which is kind of up behind where the new fire station is on Verde. At the time, they were living over on Halton at one of the apartment complexes over there. They've been renamed. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. I think I know which one it is, but I can't say for certain.
I mean, I guess proximity, but is there anything else that you think led her to that specific site? Was it because there was some other debris there in terms of concealing the box?
I mean, that's the theory at this point, yeah, right? So it's just a field, it's undeveloped, there's a pile of debris, it doesn't stand out. That would be the operating theory.
Guys, the chief's got another meeting, so maybe 1 or 2 more questions, please. If y'all have any.
Do you have any for anyone at Julie Valentine? We can invite them, Shauna or anybody there.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Guys, there will be a press release released here within the hour or so, as well as the arrest warrants, and I'll make these available, the pictures available to high quality.
We'll have